Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're talking about One Piece 994. The road to chapter 1000 is slowly getting there, and especially since we're basically going to be off next week, it's going to take a little bit longer, and Oda is trying to get to it by the end of the year, so we've still got a good 7 or 8 weeks in there. I'm sure we can manage. If not, as long as we can get to the end of Act 3, I don't mind. They're really making a big deal of this 1000 chapter milestone. If only they consider what Hajime no Ippo readers are like. To be honest with you, within a few years, that's going to probably get to 1500. I don't see One Piece getting that far. Personally, I think 1200, 1250 is probably going to be where we're going to be at. Unless there's like epilogue chapters or like a time skip down the line. And that being said, without further ado, let's get into this review. So, chapter 994. Before getting into it, even though this is like the main review now, I will leave a link to my Reddit subreddit page where I post all my review videos, as well as any links I might find to early scanlations. So feel free to check that out, or go on to the Reddit and search The Manga Man, and you will find all my links that are there. With that being said, let's get into it. So, pretty much, there's a good few divisions that happen here, and I'll kind of go over them in a review and give my thoughts as I go along. So I just want to get this out of the way. The cover page is Capone Bejin family running away from Marines, and the most beautiful set of words I have seen. Fiend tells me that this is finished. With that being said, thank God, because I really want to see something else. Not that I have no problems with the story, I just feel like it's been dragged out forever, and it's like the world record of cover pages like solely dedicated to this one thing. And honestly, I hope something comes of it. If he turns up in Wano in Act 4 and does something, fine, no problem. If he doesn't, I really didn't care too much for this. I'd rather know what's going on with the Straw Hat Fleet, to be honest, see what they're doing. That would be more interesting to me. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about this chapter. So the chapter can be split into a few bits, and I'll kind of take my time going through everything. The first thing that this chapter does, or Oda does, is addresses what's going on upstairs on the roof, and the aftermath of essentially Kiku losing her arm, literally shoulder included. I say her because she identifies herself as a woman, even though technically she was born a man. Doesn't matter, she identifies as a woman, she'll be called a woman. It's fine. So we first of all deal with that. Now there's there's actually about 4 key things on here in this particular section. Number one, we see that some of the minks are still around, and this is clearly identified when you see that's Inu telling Sicilian to get off the ceiling for safety reasons, I'd imagine, or to help other people out. Now, he doesn't specifically says you, he just says get off, so I'm assuming there's still a group, maybe the Musketeers are still around, and he wants them to get off for safety reasons or to help out other people. So that's the first thing. So there may be a factor later on in other battles to potentially help the Straw Hats and the Alliance get to Kaido. So that's number one. Number two, we address that the arm just literally been ripped off, and the quickest way they dealt with it is pretty much kind of like a Rambo-esque war veteran generalistic survival tactic. The Foxfireman himself essentially cauterizes the wound, and she says, I'm fine to go. So that's point number two. So I like that, because in a real-time situation where your life is on the line, sometimes you've got to do stuff like this to essentially survive. What this possibly means is the stitching of the arm, or Law doing something with the arm to recover it, it takes it off the table to a degree unless they use some shenanigans to get around it. It seems like that's kind of been made null and void at this stage. So that's an interesting tidbit or point, because in desperate situations you need to really just find the quickest possible solution, and they have. This leads on to the next bit, which is ultimately Kaido's viewpoint of this, and he's like, oh, you know, you samurai are really tough, I really like this about you. And then he starts talking about Roger and Whitebeard, and I found that interesting because I think ultimately for him, he's tried to kill himself so many times. He's been captured, attempted executions and all this stuff, and none of this has worked. I think he basically just wants to die in battle. He wants a glorious death, and he mentions this. He goes, you know, death in battle is kind of like the perfect way to die, and that tells you a lot about his mentality. That's probably why he was upset with Whitebeard getting killed, because a lot of people say that he's probably the only one that could have killed him, and that's why he wants this big war, so that he can die in battle and be done with his existence, I guess. So that was quite interesting. So that's the next point of this section. And the last point, which is very telling, is Kinemon not being afraid to say it straight to his face. Listen, us dying to you, we Scabbards dying to you is actually a dishonor to us. We're not ready to die to you. Essentially, this kind of, it's a counter word, you could say, or a counter attitude towards what they originally said, which they're ready to die. The whole Snatch thing. Because although they are ready to die, it would be a disservice for them to be killed by the person who essentially contributed to their master Odin's death. So although, yes, they are ready to put everything on the line and die, they would rather beat the person and survive. So it's not going to be like, it's supposed to be a suicide thing. It's suicidal to go and take down a Yonko, but at the same time they're confident they can win. By hook or by crook, they will survive. That's the point I'm trying to get out, and that's what seems to be the message of this section. So moving on to the other sections. Luffy and Nicole has managed to get up another floor. So if you look back at the previous chapter, we got given a diagram of the different floors. They're on B1, now they're on floor 1. And then essentially what we're going to find over the next coming chapters, and what I'm assuming is going to happen with it being 994, that by 998, by the end of Act 3, which is what a lot of people are predicting, Luffy will basically get to the top floor, or just get there to see the aftermath of the battle. So he'll basically get to the top at the end of 998, leading in to chapter 1001. We'll have a chapter 2 talk about other things, and then we'll get to see the Act 4 in the new year after the break. So essentially, Luffy and Co get a floor up, and they run into two headliners. So obviously we're establishing here the headliners are all as strong as each other, and these particular ones are kind of joke characters, smile users that are being given the rough end of the stick. I mean, you literally have a character who's a chicken's behind. Even though the chicken's coming out of him, he is the chicken's behind, Mr. Four Tricks himself. And then you've got a person who's basically the head of a giraffe, which if you think about it makes sense, because we've already seen a giraffe previously in the Water 7 arc. So this being like a failed version of that, it's funny, but it's like they're a joke at this point. And I think Oda really likes these types of. He's got a very funny sense of humor. And essentially they get one-shotted, they get dealt with very easily. They put up this facade, oh yeah, we don't need to talk much, we just want to do action, and pow pow pow, they're done. It's probably going to be funny if they keep running into people like this, but I'm hoping at some point we run into stronger opponents, because so far that doesn't seem like to be the case. We haven't seen everything with the Tobiropo just yet. So that's going to be interesting to see where they end up. Black Maria is singing songs at the moment. We haven't really seen the dynamic duo themselves, the brother and sister combination, do much of page 1. Hasn't been seen for a while. Neither has his sister. We know where Sasuke is. I'll talk about him later. So it's kind of like, well, what are they doing? So we're hopefully going to run into them at some point. I don't know how they're going to get up the floors, but at some point I'm hoping they do something there. So that's pretty much that section. There's not a lot to that section. Then a big chunk of the section is literally about Queen. There's a few things we pick up from this. Queen's basically a sadist and a half. He does not care. Nicely up above on his perch on the balcony, where I'm assuming Drake is, Hawkins is as well, and probably Who's Who. Basically, it's like a game show to him now, and he's set the stage. Friends, foe, doesn't matter. They're all getting affected by this ice oni plague, and essentially we're told a few different things. What this essentially is very Doflamingo Dressrosa-esque type of shenanigans here, where there's one antidote. It's been given to Apu, who's going to run for his life. If he survives an hour, he's fine. Everyone else is dead. If he doesn't survive an hour, he's going to get beheaded or killed. This is funny because him being the big betrayer in the first place, this is kind of his comeuppance in this situation. And there's going to be chaos because if you look at the panels, there was the Mimamogori there, the samurai for Kaido or Orochi. We've got the even Omasa, the Yakuza boss. He's been affected. You got people that are essentially part of the Kaido's army, part of the samurai's army, part of this alliance's army, all being affected. So essentially, what this technically does, if you think about it, it does stretch out this element of the story, and it keeps a lot of the Straw Hats busy because a lot of them are there. We see them, Chopper's there because Chopper wants the antidote. He's asked Zoro to go get it. He's gonna go get it. We've seen that Frankie's there. We know that Nami and Usopp they're running off and doing their thing, and they're gonna fight the dynamic duo Batman and Robin of the Toby Ropo. So they're gonna go do that thing over there. So there are the picture. Frankie's dealing with one of the numbers running away somewhere else. And obviously Sanji and Jinbei is with Luffy. So they're all separated, they're all doing different things. But what this effectively does is keeps Queen busy. Now, could this be a situation where they cut the stage and, he gets his comeuppance as well and he gets frozen up himself? I don't know. It'd be an easy way to defeat him, I would think. But essentially, it keeps a lot of the characters busy. It deals with the fodder and it gets essentially this impossible army of 30,000 people cut down to a lot less, purely because a lot of them are fodder, and a lot of them might be smile users and this and that and the other, but realistically it's only going to be the Toby Rope and above that are really going to do much, and possibly someone like Hawkins or Apu. So it kind of deals with that, and I like that they're getting involved and everything's going on. We haven't seen what King's up to, and I want some clarification on that. I'm hoping this gets explored in the next couple of chapters, but ultimately, by having an antidote and having Chopper there, hopefully they come together at some point and a lot of the people survive. What happens with Apu, I don't know, because if you think about it, if he loses the antidote, he's going to die anyway. He might as well join the alliance at that point, though no one's going to trust him because he was the big betrayer in the first place. Anyway, so there's a lot of different talking points. I probably missed quite a few, but I just wanted to point all them out and move on to point number 5. Or 4, whatever. So the last bit was kind of more emotional, I guess. It was more telling for me because ultimately this is the Sasaki and Yamato bit, and that's where the name of the title comes from, because he says she says, I initially introduced myself as Oden, but let me reintroduce myself, I'm also known as Yamato. And I like that because this is kind of the section where we've had a few weeks of them running away from Yamato. This is where he really proves his loyalty and shows he or she is a good guy. To clarify, I technically refer to it as a she, but sometimes I'll say he because she wants to be Oden. So it's not about the gender specifically for me. The character looks up to a male character, so it's not the fact that it was a male, it was the fact that he was a good person, and she wants to embody that spirit. So for all intents and purposes, Yamato is a she, Kikunoji is a he, because she's a he at heart. Gender specifics, I guess. Anyway, That being said, this part was really interesting for me because Sasuke's like, they're cornered, let's just do our thing and we'll be on the way. And she tanks explosions, she deals with some of the fodder from that crew. She basically says, back when your father was being executed, I was there as a young child and I have to live up to that hype, that expectation, that chaddiness. I rushed over to try and save you. I could not save you because Kaido, father, essentially threw him in the castle. Yamato, Momo, and said, Yamato says, I wasn't strong enough then. She doesn't say I'm strong enough now, but she does say, I'm ready to lay my life on the line for you. This is important because if you think about all the different characters that we've seen during the Straw Hats, they all have a strong will or a strong dream or a strong goal. And to have a strong goal, you need to be determined, you need to be persistent, you need to have a strong will. And this is an example of that. So for all those people that are umming and ahhing about Carrot joining the crew, I don't really care. Yamato needs to be a Straw Hat for me. I'm on break next week, so that being said, thank you very much if you've got this far. I'd really greatly appreciate if you can watch the video to the end, as it does help me out with my 64 subscribers. I really need to get a boost on that. So feel free to like, comment, share and subscribe. And let me know in the comment section below what you thought of the chapter. As always, thank you for your time. Peace.